What's up, everybody? And today we are reacting to 5 scariest booby traps of the Vietnam War. I know nothing about the Vietnam War and I want to know more. I've said that in previous videos, especially now that I'm a US citizen. I want to know more about the US military and the US military history. So 5 scariest booby traps of Vietnam War I think is a good video to react to, and then maybe I'll react to some other history videos about the Vietnam War. But for now, we're going to react to this one. This is by Dark 5. I'll leave a link down below to the OG video. Make sure you go over there, give it a like, and all that good stuff. Before we get started, though, speaking of America, me and my wife are converting a US school bus and traveling the United States. If that's something you're interested in watching, both the vlogs and the Instagram posts, OriginalAdventures, link down below, guys, okay? But for now, let's shut up, let's pop this up, and let's react to this.
Two-Step Charlie.
Two-Step Charlie.
North Vietnamese and Viet Cong soldiers were well aware that they were outnumbered by the U.S. in troops, artillery, and technology.
Right.
But not even the best-trained army in the world knew the jungle terrain better than them.
True.
The Viet Cong resorted to planting booby traps to terrorize American troops physically and psychologically.
Yep.
To achieve this, they employed every nature-based defense possible, made available by the country's weather and land conditions.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying that if you enter another country's terrain, it's going to be more difficult for your soldiers, right? Because these other people know their terrain, they know the surroundings, they've grown up there, they've lived there for generations, they understand their surroundings. Not only that, but in Afghan, Iraq, Vietnam, what I do know is they use guerrilla tactics, right? So they don't use tactics that follow the Geneva Convention, and they use all these different tactics that are incredibly harsh, like, you know, IEDs and vests, you know what I mean, suicide vests, and all sorts of crazy stuff. I don't know about the Vietnam. I do know that they had people in trees shooting from trees. I know that they had holes with spikes in them, but that's the extent. But basically they used guerrilla warfare as their advantage because they tactically weren't as sound as the US military, so it makes sense.
The banded crate snakes, nicknamed Two-Step Charlies, played a big part in one of these macabre plans. Rumor has it that the snake's venom was so toxic that one bite could make a man drop dead after taking only 2 steps.
Wow.
U.S. soldiers also referred to the banded crate as the cigarette snake, implying that the bite would kill you in the time it took to smoke a cigarette.
Wow.
This booby trap was simple. Enemy soldiers would take the snakes and trap them inside old weapons caches. They would also tie the animals to bamboo sticks and hide them throughout their complex tunnel structures. The
Holy
snake
cow.
would be released at the same time as the bamboo, right onto the enemy's face. As if deathly snake pits weren't bad enough, they were sometimes nailed to tree branches and doors, waiting angrily to strike soldiers' faces.
That's terrifying. That is absolutely terrifying. No wonder a lot of lads from Vietnam came back messed up. There's a lot of horror stories from Vietnam as well, weren't there? There was a lot of like, kind of like, I don't know how you describe it, but like paranormal horror stories about the tunnels in Vietnam and stuff. I remember watching a video on that. That's terrifying as well. What's next?
Keepsake, lose hand.
Keepsake, lose hand.
Even when seemingly on the verge of defeat, the Viet Cong knew how to take advantage of the war on their home turf and made sure American soldiers had to be aware of the surroundings at all times.
Yeah. Okay.
Vietnamese soldiers placed explosives in everyday items that they knew American servicemen would want to take back home with them as a keepsake. These items would detonate the moment the soldiers took them. Hence the term keepsake, lose hand.
Yeah, so this is something common practice that they taught us in the Royal Marines, that like if you see like obviously our rifles are the SA-80s, but if you see an SA-80 on the floor, don't just go over there and pick it up. You know, like check it first, have a look around it. And it's the same, when we did pre-deployment training for Afghan, they showed us all these different techniques to check all these different items on the floor. I never went to Afghan, but I did 6 months of pre-deployment training for it. And yeah, we went through all this stuff where you don't just go and pick something up off the ground. However, in Vietnam, I guess that was a brand new tactic. In Afghan, it's not so new anymore, so lads are pretty aware of what's going on over there. But for Vietnam, that must have been new, and that must have been crazy to see something be like, oh, I'll take that home, that'd be a cool souvenir. And then boom. Scary. Scary.
After defeat in battles, Vietnamese soldiers would escape and leave flags and other trinkets around their terrain, because they knew U.S. troops enjoyed capturing enemy items.
Yep.
When they were about to leave the location, they rigged their flagpoles with explosives. When Americans started to take down the flag, it would set off the charge and detonate.
That's scary.
Other temptations included tampered lighters that were rigged with flammable cotton, and fountain pens with friction fuses and pull wires set to blow up when removing the caps.
Wow. That's crazy. Don't look down.
Possibly the most famous Viet Cong booby trap, Punji sticks have been around for hundreds of years.
Yeah, this is the one I've seen before, and it's fucking terrifying.
They were cheap and easy to make. And since they were mainly made of natural materials, the sticks usually weren't located by mine detectors.
Yep.
Built with sharpened bamboo sticks, with points hardened by fire or nails, the Viet Cong had multiple variations of the trap. But the Punji stick pits were the most common.
Wow.
A Punji stick pit was a hole with the sticks protruding out of the sides and the bottom. In the tropical jungles, these holes would have been concealed by forests, leaves, and bushes.
This picture shows them being massive. I thought they were just like the size of like a foothole or something. But that looks huge. You could fall into that. That is terrifying.
It was easy to camouflage Punji sticks, and they often went undetected by the Americans.
Wow.
The traps would often be placed in helicopter landing fields or around defensive positions where US troops were likely to walk through.
Yep.
The Viet Cong would then fire from the jungle tree line to distract enemy troops from the danger hiding right under their feet.
Yeah.
When an American...
That's incredibly smart from guerrilla tactic standards, and it's also really scary. Really scary.
soldier fell into a pit, he first got injured by the sticks in the base, and then by the lateral sticks. Since they were pointing downward, victims would get hurt when they tried to pull out of the trap, and it was challenging to get out without help.
Yikes.
The word spread around fast in US bases about these simple but sneaky traps, making soldiers afraid of their own shadow.
Yeah.
An injury from a punji stick was rarely fatal. The main objective of the booby trap was to take soldiers out of the fight and inflict battle fatigue on those still on the field. To increase their potency, the Viet Cong would smear the sides with poison or waste, thus increasing the likelihood of an infection.
That's terrifying as well.
In a medical report made by the US military in 1967, it was estimated that 324 soldiers would end up in the hospital from punji stick wound infections for every 3 weeks of combat.
Wow. That's terrifying. It makes me wonder, so you get a lot of like IEDs and explosives still out in the wild, right? That's something that's very common these days, where civilians who, you know, their country hasn't been at war for years or generations, they'll get blown up all of a sudden from walking in a place that's not been walked on in a long time. And it makes me wonder, in Vietnam, how many of these booby traps are still out there that people don't know about and they've just been forgotten about, you know? That's scary.
Tiger traps and deadly falls.
Okay. Tiger traps.
The Viet Cong troops made sure to keep American soldiers alert by setting up traps wherever and whenever possible. Take a wrong step, and you could suffer significant consequences.
Yep.
One of the most notable ones was the tiger trap.
Ugh.
This death from above device consisted of an 18-inch board with pointy spikes lined with metal and weighted with bricks. It was hung from tree branches and triggered by a tripwire stretched across the path or underneath the trap.
Ah, yikes.
It would fall unexpectedly on an unassuming American soldier's head, rendering him unable to continue on his mission. The spiked log was even more destructive. It reached 10 feet in length and was often lined with metal spikes. The device was set up like a pendulum. When triggered, it would swing rapidly from side to side, targeting multiple soldiers. Simple spike boards were also used. These were placed in a shallow pit and consisted of a treadle board with metal spikes on the front side.
Sheesh. I feel like it would be very easy to make a military game in Vietnam that's also kind of a horror-based military game, because there's so much mystery and there's so much kind of there's so many surprises, right? There's so many booby traps, there's so many ways to injure yourself, snakes that are just strapped to trees and things falling out the sky and falling through the floor into spikes. I feel like it would make a really good military horror game. What do you know? What do you think about that? Let me know in the comments.
When a soldier stepped on one, the spiked end flew up and struck him in the face or chest
Wow.
at 100 miles per hour. Some of the spikes were over a foot long.
Yikes.
Another variation, the bear trap, had spiked slats on both ends of a board. When triggered, they would clasp together with a rubber band.
Nah.
Between the spiked slats was a thin bamboo log that, when removed, would allow the rubber band to slap the device together and impale its victim.
Nah. That's gross.
The Viet Cong even resorted to deploying the mace, a medieval device consisting of a spiked concrete ball, drum, or box suspended in a tree on the end of a rope. When the tripwire was pulled, the mace would swing across the path.
It's like Indiana Jones stuff, this, isn't it?
Further trap techniques included the use of bamboo whips, grenades, and window and door traps. Historians estimate that booby traps caused 11% of American casualties in the Vietnam War.
Holy cow, 11%. Think about that. Wow. 11% of the soldiers injured or killed were from booby traps. That is mental.
Secretary of State Henry Kissinger perfectly summarized the problem in 1969, quote, "The conventional army loses if it does not win. The guerrilla wins if he does not lose."
Yeah, fair
Project
one.
Eldest Son.
Fair one.
Although the United States military usually resorted to superior weapons technology for its war strategy, the Army Studies and Information Group was inspired by the Viet Cong to try other unconventional warfare methods. As part of the effort, they devised one of their most devious sabotage techniques during the Vietnam War. They codenamed it Project Eldest Son.
It makes me think, so obviously they had superior weapons, they had these superior techniques. This certainly was the bridge between like World War II and Afghan, right? This is the war that was right smack bang in the middle of that. And you can definitely tell, like the technology is nowhere near as good as what we have right now, but it's definitely that little bit more tuned up than World War II. It makes you wonder where, like, if Vietnam happened right now, how much would these booby traps affect American soldiers if they've got body armor on? You know, they've got better equipment. They can see things in the sky a lot better. I wonder what that percentage, if that 11% would be drastically changed to like 5% or something. I reckon it would personally, but just because of purely the fact that the US is a much better military than it. You know, it's better every single day, right? It improves every single day. So I wonder what the difference would be in time, you know?
The scheme began in 1967 and saw U.S. engineers prying apart 11,565 AK-47 cartridges, 556 heavy machine gun cartridges, and 1,968 mortar shells.
Okay.
These were reconfigured to explode randomly when the weapons were fired.
Wow.
Colonel John Singlaub was the first to propose the macabre ploy. He was inspired by the British Army, which had secretly distributed its own exploding .303 Lee Enfield rifle rounds to enemy rebels in the Second Matabele War and the Waziristan campaign in the 1930s.
Surely that's against the Geneva Convention. Holy cow. Giving them rounds that explode? Holy. I mean, I guess they were using some pretty horrific techniques anyway.
Project Eldest Son's biggest challenge was placing the tampered devices into the enemy's reach without being detected.
Yeah.
Green Berets were viewed as the best option, as they had been conducting secret missions behind enemy lines since 1965.
Yep.
These earlier missions included gathering intelligence, wiretapping enemy communications, kidnapping key enemy personnel, ambushing convoys, and planting mines.
The guy's got a bent neck. Look at that.
As an additional task, each team was commissioned to plant or leave behind several Eldest Son rounds, usually as a single round in an otherwise full AK magazine.
Yeah, so they're basically the planting bombs. That's what it is. Controlled explosives that, you know, are there to be picked up by the enemy who don't have the resources like the US do, so they have more of a chance to go, hey, look, there's some rounds, let's pick them up and use them. Before you know it, boom. It's definitely against the Geneva Convention, I'm sure. But, I mean, they're fighting fire with fire here. Like, obviously, the Vietnamese were definitely not abiding by the Geneva. I don't even know, was the Geneva Convention even around at this point? When was the Geneva Convention formed? 1 second. When was the Geneva Convention started? 1929. Okay. So yeah, it was in place. Damn.
The second part of Project Eldest Son was disseminating false information in the shape of forged documents detailing the rifle's defects. These documents cited instances of the Chinese armament factories producing faulty artillery and ammunition. They also included U.S. intelligence briefs intended to fall into enemy hands. One document pretended to be a Viet Cong report, touching on the rumors of exploding ammunition, disregarding them as exaggerations and part of a small problem.
Oh, so they're even bluffing it even more by saying it's not a real thing and making intel for them fake, saying that it's not a real thing. Wow. They went all out with this, didn't they? So basically, like, lads were probably getting worried, and they were like, all right, let's put some fake intel out. That's so crazy.
Another fake report recognized thousands of issues resulting from poor Chinese quality control. However, it estimated there was only a small quantity of faulty rifles. The U.S. Armed Forces radio network knew their signals were being continuously monitored by enemy intelligence. They used this to their advantage by advising U.S. soldiers to avoid capturing and using the enemy's weapons because of the risk posed by Chinese-made bullets. Yeah, it makes sense. The 25th Infantry Division's newspaper also warned soldiers of poor quality control and artillery made in communist factories.
Of course, they've got to pop in the whole communist thing there. You know, every American hates commies.
The publication reported that some AKs had a slight malfunction that would make them blow up when fired.
Right.
Despite the warnings, some GIs had managed to fire captured arms, self-inflicting injuries with their own booby traps.
So they did unfortunately get hit by their own booby traps. It makes me wonder how many Vietnamese got injured by their own booby traps, though. Like these pits and all that lot, people leave them and are like, whatever. Another bunch of lads, Vietnamese lads, pop over and they get hit by these traps. That's a strange statistic that I'd like to hear as well, what the truth is in that.
Over 20 deaths were attributed to the project.
Wow.
But the American army wasn't looking for a high death toll. Instead, they hoped that these fake documents and misleading information would lead to a rift in tension between China and North Korea.
Ah.
For 2 years.
So there was an even bigger plot behind this. This was a big mission then. They were like, if they can jeopardize the relationship between countries, then potentially it will help them even more. Jeez.
Years, U.S. Special Ops teams spread out across South Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, depositing the deadly ammunition into the enemy's supply.
Is that a hot dog in his helmet? Like, yeah, I'm going to carry this hot dog around, guys.
During that time, they managed to go unnoticed.
That one.
By 1969, details about the Eldest Son began leaking in the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other publications.
Yeah.
This forced the army to change the codename to Italian Green and later to Pole Bean, before abandoning the project altogether later that same year.
Of course, as soon as it goes public. Let's be honest though, how many governments, British, American, any government, has done things against the rules to try and, swing the fight in their favor? It happens all the time. It happens in not just war, but in politics, in everything. People do dirty tactics. It's what happens. Wasn't there a story about the US who flew over drugs to South America so that they could carry on this war against drugs that was pointless? Anyway, that's a whole nother story. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of stories out there where the good guys do bad things to win. It's not an uncommon thing, guys. It's not an uncommon thing at all. But that was creepy. That was really creepy. There's some really scary stories in there about Vietnam. I'm so interested in the Vietnam War. If you guys have more videos, more historical videos, because this is obviously a little bit more, just more interesting and dark. I'd like to know the actual intricacies of why the war happened and all that lot, because I still don't really know, if I'm honest with you. I know very, very little about the Vietnam War. I really do. So if you've got recommendations, please let me know in the comments down below. I would love to react to them. I'd love to watch them and learn more about the country that's adopted me. USA, USA. Anyway, the original video, link to the original video will be down below. But for now, members, you're amazing. I love you. I couldn't do this without you. I honestly couldn't make videos every single day if it wasn't for these members right here. So thank you for supporting the channel as much as you do. I really, really do appreciate it. Links down below to all my socials, including the link to Discord and also the link to OriginalAdventures. Me and my wife converting a school bus. Go and check it out. It's going to be a ton of fun. Both OriginalAdventures YouTube channel and Instagram link down below. Also link down below to my Twitch stream where I stream every Tuesday and Thursday. Well, not every Tuesday and Thursday. Most Tuesdays and Thursdays. And also link down below to my second channel, OriginalHuman Geek, where we play D&D and a bunch of other fun stuff. Until next time, guys, I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.